It is another wonderful Monday, and of course, good afternoon to you. You're welcome to the program African Discourse on Independent Television. My name is Evan Sunokoge. On this program, you are aware that we look at issues on the continent of Africa, and of course, how we can better position these issues so that the governments of the day, and of course, all in Africa, will be good for us as citizens of this continent. Well, today on the program African Discourse, we're going to be looking at what has been going on, talking about the migrants crackdown from the United States of America. And of course, when we say the U.S. now, we are talking about the U.S. President, Donald Trump. And it's been a series of issues that we've been looking at since he assumed duty, almost a year ago now. And we've seen that lots of issues have been going on. The last edition we did on migration issue was the one that has to do with how the U.S. intends to deport over 6,000 foreign students, of which Nigerian students are also inclusive. Well, today on that series of migrants crackdown from the U.S., we are going to be looking at what is going on in Rwanda, how the Rwandan government has agreed to take in a total of 250 migrants from the United States of America. And of course, this is not, meeting good reactions from Kigali, because we understand that a lot of Rwandese are not too comfortable with this decision. But the big question that we ask to all this is what exactly is the nature of the migrant deal that Trump has with Africa? We're going to be looking at all this today on the program African Discourse. Well, my guest today on the show, I have two gentlemen. And of course, one is joining us virtually all the way from United States of America. Ahmed Mamodu, good afternoon and nice to have you on the program.
Good afternoon, Evans. Good afternoon, viewers, and thank you for having me on the show one more time. Thank you, Evans.
Okay. All right. So with on set this afternoon, we're so privileged to have the erudite professor, talking about Professor Victor Igbenedion, a professor of vocational and technical education. So you're welcome to the program African Discuss.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so the information we are following, is that Rwanda has agreed to accept 250 migrants from the United States of America under a new deportation agreement. And it is told that the Rwanda government confirmed this recently. The move comes as the administration of President Donald Trump ramps up efforts to deport undocumented migrants, including through controversial third country resettlement deals with nations such as South Sudan and Eswatini. Then, of course, we also understand that the Rwandan government spokesperson, Yolanda Makolo, said the agreement with America allows Kigali to receive a maximum of 250 individuals, but emphasized that it retains the right to approve each person proposed for relocation. And also, Rwanda has agreed with the United States to accept up to 250 migrants. However, Rwanda will maintain the ability to approve each proposed for resettlement, and that's the information. Details regarding who will be eligible under the deal, as well as the implementation timeline, are still not disclosed as we speak now. But however, the spokesperson for the Rwandan government, Marco Polo, said more information will be provided once specifics are finalized. Now, viewers are there, like I said a while ago, that what exactly is the nature of the migrant deal that President Donald Trump seems to be having in Africa? Well, I'll start with our guest joining us virtually, all the way from United States of America, Ahmed Mamodu. Ahmed Mamodu, what is your reaction when you hear all this information, taking deportees, the migrants, deporting them to Africa? How would you react to it?
Thank you once again, Evans, for having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to air my views on this topic. So let's get into the meat of the matter. What is this based on? It's based on the idea, this current Trump administration has the idea that the people that should be in the country are of fairer skin, not necessarily the dark-skinned ones. And so there's this hidden, for the want of a better word, let's call it demarcation between the races. So what they've now done is that they've decided that if you are of black skin or if you are of darker skin, anywhere in Africa is suitable to send you back and call it home for you, instead of allowing you to stay here and either face the judiciary and prove your case or disprove your case, as this may be. If you remember the discussion we had the other time, we're talking about the policy of deporting students and other undesirable elements, calling them undesirable elements. Now, this is the second stage to it. What they've done is they've said, if we find you undesirable to stay here, we are going to send you to a third country, not necessarily the country from which you came or the country of your nationality, but any country in Africa that will agree to host you until such a time that they are now ready to send back to their own country after they've concluded the terms of their incarceration. So they might have been sentenced, for example, to 2 years for some kind of crime here. And then instead of serving the jail term here, to reduce costs, they are sent to a third country. In this case, it is Rwanda. So what is the Rwanda deal? The Rwanda deal is simply that they've agreed to take on 250 of such individuals, and they will house them for the duration of their supposed incarceration until they complete the terms of the sentence. And what does Rwanda get in return? Allegedly, they are supposed to be getting some kind of grants from the US, access to mineral rights, intellectual rights, and some other things that at this point in time are shrouded in mystery, because neither the Rwandan government has come out to give the details of this deal, and the US government, of course, is shrouded in complete silence over the deal. So, but this is not something that is new to Rwanda. Rwanda had a similar deal where they were going to receive people from the UK, but it was debated and then discarded locally, because a lot of human rights groups in Rwanda resisted the attempt on the premise that these are people that are foreign to the country. They don't know how they will assimilate. And then there's the issue of complicity with local laws or against local laws. Now, this is something that is definitely going to come up at the termination of the Trump administration, because there have been several human rights abuses that human rights advocates, not just locally, but all over the world, have been asking, how do you just pluck somebody from a system that he's accustomed to, take him to a foreign country, and domicile him for the period of his incarceration? Just the fact that he is in prison does not mean that you take away their human rights. So this is what the US is doing, and it's going to lead to a lot of pushback at the termination of this administration. So what we are saying now is this: what rights does the US have to just take people because they are supposedly accused of crimes and relocate them to third countries? This is entirely unacceptable.
Victor Igbenedion. Now, the last time we saw this kind of move was during the Prime Minister Richard Sunak in the UK. Now, we're having another Prime Minister now, Sir Keir now, that's the first name now in the UK. Now, what do you think Rwanda is trying to do? I mean, accepting migrants, deportees. The first time it was from the UK, and that is still somehow arguable whether it passed through or it failed. Now this time it's from the US. From your own point of view, why do you think Rwanda is accepting deportees from these two major countries of the world, from UK and of course right now from the US?
Well, it's rather unfortunate that Africa has been turned to a dumping ground, and in this case, particularly by the US, with impunity, so to speak. And unfortunately also, the Rwanda government is accepting with free hand. Of course, the last speaker was talking about the real deal is shrouded in mystery. We don't even know what will benefit them or what the US will gain in return. So, to me, it is very outrageous for people, for a government to say, oh, they want to accept people who were serving jail terms in the US and put them in the country. It can be very explosive. To start with, the environment, they are completely different. you can have a big problem on your hand. The last time they were doing it with the British government, there was an opera in Rwanda because there's a cultural difference. The people are going to be highly dislocated from where they are coming. And you don't know what they are bringing into the country. So they did not accept like that. Whether they did on the ground, on the table transaction, that we don't know. But you know, Trump himself, he operates with impunity. He doesn't care the backlash of what he was going to do. And you know, as soon as he came to power, he did a lot of executive orders bordering on climate, energy, migration, and everything. And he has been doing so with impunity. And the unfortunate thing is that Africa is worse for it, because the other time he invited 5 African leaders, and they were running to him with their tail behind, as if they are not sovereign states. So, because first of all, the first thing he did was to remove some of these aid that U.S. used to give to the world, from UNESCO, from United Nations, from everywhere, and the support they were giving. And I believe that one of the fears that Rwanda government, is it not Paul Kagame, has, is he doesn't want to lose the aid from the U.S. And that is the problem of African leaders, inability to look inward and try to be on their own. I know that no man can be an island, but you can substantially look inward and be self-dependent in such a way. But they have not weaned themselves out of this aid thing from the United States and all that and all that. That's why Trump has a very strong grip on even the whole world, because of the support they give to United Nations for refugee, for education, for all over the world. People benefit from that largesse. So Rwanda could probably be interested that he will benefit from U.S. aid to be able to carry on his country.
Okay. All right. So that will make me to ask Mamadou Ahmed now, because he is in the U.S. Perhaps he has some information that we are not privileged to have here. Now, Ahmed Mamadou, we understand that Rachel Sunak got almost about 330 million pounds, if that is anything true to go by, from that migrant deal that the U.S. had with, that Britain had with the U.K., that Britain had with Rwanda, the UK had with Rwanda. Now, for this now, are you aware if there's any monetary benefits that Rwanda stands to gain in this latest transaction?
So, playing the devil's advocate, let us for a minute put aside any monetary consideration. What Rwanda is arguing is that because of their recent history in a civil war and resettlement of displaced people, they are uniquely positioned to be able to assist in this regard. That is one argument that they've made. The second argument that Rwanda has also made is that rather than send these people home where they may be dislocated or they may not be able to fit in properly, if you send them to Rwanda, they will reintegrate them in through their own system, teaching them skills and resettling them and helping them reintegrate themselves into a larger society. But now the downside of that is you are reintegrating them. Are you reintegrating them into the Rwandan society or into their own society? That is one of the points of contention. Now, to address your own question, that is there any financial gain? Like I said previously, the U.S. government these deals have been completely shrouded in darkness, in secrecy. The Trump administration, like the last speaker said, has been operating under complete and total impunity. Why do we say this? Because under the United States law, every person accused of a crime must be given the opportunity to defend himself in a court of law. assuming you want to deport these people, they must be given the right to come to court and argue why they should not be deported, why it is better for them to be kept in prison in the US, and their rights are being breached without that due process. So, whatever the financial inducement that the Trump administration has given to these third countries, it's completely irrelevant to the fact that you are taking 200, 300 people and then just dumping them on a foreign country. There's no precedence for this, apart from the impunity and the complete disregard for human life and the complete disregard for the people that are being moved like cattle up and down. Now, mind you, if you notice the history of these kind of transactions, it has never occurred between any of the lighter skinned races. You will never hear them talking about deporting people to Finland or Norway or even from US to the UK. No, they will not do such a thing. But they've come to the point where they completely disregard the dark race, the dark skin, and they believe they can act in any manner that they like. Let us even assume that there's some financial inducement. How much is it worth for a government to say we will completely disregard our sovereignty and take criminals from one system into our system? What kind of future are the Rwandans going to be able to say or stand up to when the US calls them a country that is without law or without any? I mean, some of these things are baffling. So, going back to the question, like we said, we do not know what the financial inducement is for Rwanda. None of this is clear, but possibly as time goes on, some of these things will come to light.
All right, the program is still the African Discourse on independent television. We quickly take a short pause now, and when we return, we're going to be looking at how the State Department in the U.S. is reacting to this. Because some of the feelers that we're getting now is that the State Department is saying that there are mutual priorities. In other words, there are mutual benefits that is attached to this trade, this transaction, so to say, between the U.S. government and Rwanda. We'll be coming back. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you one more time. The program's still on your television, African Discourse, and we are looking at the latest, one of the latest of the migrant deal now between the United States of America and, of course, the U.S. And our focus this afternoon is how and why the Rwandan government has accepted to receive 250 deportees from the United States of America. And we still have Ahmed Mamadou join us virtually all the way from US this afternoon, and also Professor Victor Igbenedion on set with us here, right here in Benin. Now, Prof, now the reaction that the US Department is giving to all this now is that there are some financial, priorities, mutual priority. Let me not use the word financial now. Mutual priorities that is attached to this, arrangement. So, what kind of mutual priorities do you think the U.S. is talking about?
As we have said, they have not come out openly, and it borders on speculation if we are talking about it. That the Rwanda will benefit some maybe substantial financial benefit from the U.S. to integrate them. And how can they integrate them? It means that the U.S. will be supplying some money for them to take care of the migrants.
Okay.
Yes, because they have to take care of them, and the U.S. will fund that one. Apart from that one, they will also give some other incentives to Rwanda. Don't forget that Rwanda must be experiencing refugee matter because they are smart. They have just smarted from a very fratricidal war. Fratricidal war. And maybe they have experience in rehabilitating some people. But they still have issues with their own people. That in itself speaks volume of the Africans and the African leaders, so to speak. We have to learn how to look inward to solve our problems. If we continue to rely on external factors to solve our problem, there's a problem, very serious problem with us. They cannot fully reintegrate those migrants because there will be cultural problem. You know, after they have served their jail terms, you say they can go back to the society. And these people came from different cultural backgrounds. So it's a big problem. When the implosion will come, they will not even know.
Okay. All right, so Ahmed Mamoudou, you know, we are going to be relying so much on you this afternoon because perhaps there are some information you may have from the U.S. Department that we don't have back home. Now, what the U.S. Department is saying is that there are mutual priorities in all of this arrangement with Rwanda. So what's and which kind of mutual priorities do you think that the U.S. Department is talking about?
So if you ask me to speculate, Evans, what I would say is that Rwanda is looking to be a much bigger player on the continental stage and on the world stage by believing that it aligns itself with the priorities of the current administration.
I wish I can
It
hear.
probably will be looking at getting some rebates in the tariff war that is ongoing. It will also be looking at some kind of military assistance and then to develop infrastructure. And then some of the grants, if you remember, let's cast our mind back a little bit. You remember that recently the administration practically canceled all grants that were going to African countries in the form of US aid, running into several hundreds of billions of dollars. So this money is still there because it has been already appropriated by Congress. And it's simply as a matter of that continuing impunity for the Trump administration to probably divert such funds towards this kind of policies that it's pursuing. That would be one aspect of it. The Rwanda government is also looking for a situation where even its own, because the Rwandan administration currently is suffering from a lack of transparency in the treatment of its own citizens regarding human rights violations. So this is also some of the trend that will continue to be seen, that a local administration that is having doubts cast on its human rights record is receiving people and is going to treat them in what manner. So we have so many issues that are conflicting and are conflicting. And the US government, what are they looking at? They are looking at a situation where they can circumvent the traditional expense that is associated with dealing with people through the legal process. And then this is a shortcut. They just kind of circumvent and then remove people willy-nilly. The question you also asked is, what is this, the information from the State Department? Currently, as we speak, the State Department has neither confirmed or denied that this is something that the US government is partaking in. It is simply holding we will keep on looking until we cannot either deny it anymore or the facts are made real. But what has actually happened is that an initial number of 10 people have been sent to the Rwandan government to vet, because the Rwandan government has said, before we allow these people to come into our country, we will need to vet them, we need to see their history, etc., etc. This is just a smoke screen. It serves no purpose to either disturb the arrangement or make anything, change anything. But let us also, just out of credit, let us also highlight that it's not only Rwanda that has accepted this. South Sudan and formerly Eswatini, I think it's called Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, they are all in league. They've all agreed to accept deportees from the US, and it's an ongoing process. But like the other speaker said, this is going to blow up, and it's going to blow up mightily, because as soon as this administration is gone and they are held to account, everybody that is involved in this process is going to be called to account and held accountable.
Still African Discourse. We will go for yet another break, and when we return, we're going to be extracting some reactions. For example, the reaction that the Rwandan spokesperson is giving to this development. You know, in the words that, well, let's just take this break. We'll look at all that when we return. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you one more time. The program is still right here on your television, African Discourse on Independent TV. And our focus this afternoon is trailing the migrant, you know, the migration crackdown, migrants crackdown that the U.S. government is having in the U.S. And of course, the latest is how and why Rwanda is accepting 250 deportees from the United States of America. And what exactly is the nature of the migrant deal that Donald Trump has with Africa is what we are exploring this afternoon. Ahmed Mamoudou is still our guest, joining us virtually all the way from the United States of America. And of course, Professor Victor Igbenedion is also here. Now, Prof, I will just read out something to you, just as we are trying to estray the importance, the reason why Rwanda is accepting. Now, remember we talked about one Mr. Makopolo a while ago. That's the Rwandan spokesperson now in all of this. Now, he's saying that the U.S. government now is going to be providing some form of training. Now, just listen. Now, okay. All right, I think I mixed that up now. Now, what it seems to be saying is that the U.S. government is going to be providing some form of grant to educate these people, to train them. And Rwanda is also trying to help the world in a migration issue, you know, because migration issue borders on reintegration, it borders on rehabilitation. So what Mr. Makopolo is saying now is that perhaps accepting these 250 migrants from the U.S. is their own contribution, you know, in helping international migration issue that borders on reintegration and rehabilitation. So how would you react to that?
Which place is better for them to be rehabilitated? Is it in the U.S. or in Rwanda? It's in the U.S. The U.S., they have dehumanized these people. And these migrants, they went there for succor to be rehabilitated. And you know that U.S. is a basin for drugs. And that's what they are fighting Colombia.
No, but let us be careful with the way we say that now, because that would be subjective. We will say U.S. is the basin for drugs.
Yeah, that's what.
Except that's your own opinion.
Yes, the United States use substantial amount of dollars to fight drugs.
Okay.
Coming from Mexico, Colombia, and the other South American countries. So, you know, when you keep people in detention for a long time, they have access to different things because they are almost dehumanized. And the only place they can get succor is to do some illicit deals, like taking drugs and all that one. There's no short supply of drugs, bad drugs, in the detention or in the prison, as we know. So if these people, most of them, they are less than human beings, so to speak, because many of them may have been deranged or so. And the best rehabilitation center for them would have been the U.S. But the U.S. is pushing them now to South Sudan, Mexico, Rwanda, and the other place.
Eswatini, we heard that
okay.
Recently. Yeah.
Yes. And those people, what facilities do they have on ground that the Makopolo is talking about? They want to help, you know, to rehabilitate, to reintegrate them into a culture that they don't know. If they were from Rwanda, so to speak now, we can say, oh, fine. They can easily be reintegrated into the society. But these are a potpourri of people from different settings, cultural milieu that they are coming from. And you say you want to go and settle them, either because they are from Africa or whatever it is. Why don't you take them back to their own countries? So I don't see any sense that Makopolo is making from that place, except the financial inducement.
The financial interest.
Yes, interest. So it's like, okay, help us with these people. We are really tired. We'll give you some fraction. You will see that if these people, they are not properly rehabilitated, they might just die away like that.
Or they may even become
a problem to
Rwanda.
I used the word
extending it to the African continent.
Implosion before. Implosion.
Yes.
See, these people, some of them are very hardened criminals. No matter where you keep them, they will find a way. They will find an outlet and fight against their society. So
All right.
it's a dangerous trend.
Yeah. Now, Ahmed Mamodu. Now, we understand that recently in the U.S. There has been counter reactions. Protests here and there, as against the decisions that Donald Trump is taking. Sending migrants to all parts of the world. But we also understand too that very recently, some Supreme Court judges in the U.S. Majority of the judges now recently ruled in favor of Donald Trump. In other words, these judges have ruled that what Donald Trump is doing, it's okay, that Donald Trump can send these migrants outside the U.S. And that seems to be what Donald Trump is leveraging on in his decision. But again, now we have talked about how the deal failed between the UK and this same Rwanda. Now, a Rwandan Supreme Court ruled that the Rwanda was not safe, for deportees to come into Rwanda. Now, if we have this decision, why is Rwanda going ahead again? I mean, when it was for UK, the Supreme Court in Rwanda ruled that Rwanda was not safe. But for America now, Rwanda is opening its hands to receive these deportees. So why do you think the difference in this, situation?
So again, there's rampant impunity on both sides. Not just like you rightly pointed out, there has been local resistance to these deportations, not just from Congress, members of Congress, the Democratic Congress Caucus, human rights groups, etc., that has been stridently saying that these deportations are against the human rights of the deportees, without being given them the privilege and the prerogative to challenge these provisions or their deportations on an individual basis. So what they've done is they've lumped them all together and said, as long as you are violent criminals with a history of violence and you've been convicted, without any other parameter, there's nothing else that combines all of these individuals except their descent. They are of darker skin. That's the only thing that brings all of them together. So from as many African countries as there may be 30 individuals. We don't know even who, there may be 30 countries involved. We don't even know the original nationalities of these deportees or the basis from which they were taken, apart from their race, apart from the color of their skin. The United Nations has stood up against it and said this is an infringement on their rights. Local groups, including the Congress, the House of Assembly, and the Senate members have come out and said this is illegal, it should not be done. America is known for harboring and for a friendlier nature, rehabilitating human beings that have erred. That they've committed crimes does not mean that you can dehumanize them in such a manner. And then what is the benefit of moving people from a system that they are not used to one that is completely strange? This is a very difficult situation. We must keep on tackling all these issues as they arise. But one thing that is clear is that at the point of their deportation, these people have been dehumanized to the point where they have no choice. There's nothing they can do. They are going to be taken to a strange country. They must adapt or they will die off. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Okay. All right, so Professor Victor, I think at this point we may have to praise the Nigerian authority because we understand that about a fortnight ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, this same development came up, how Donald Trump was trying to woo the Nigerian authority to accept the deportees from Venezuela to Nigeria. But that makes a very strict resistance from the Nigerian authority. But Nigeria perhaps cannot stand alone in this fight in Africa, because other nations of the continent need to join. As we speak now, 3 countries have accepted deportees from the U.S. Eswatini has accepted, Sudan has accepted, and of course we're talking about Rwanda. Nigeria, has said no. So other nations of the continent, how can they join Nigeria in this fight? In other words, can Africa as a continent, can they withstand? Can they stand Donald Trump? Can they stand him and tell him that, no, we don't need this thing? Do they have the effrontery? Do they have what it takes?
Certainly, some of them have, but not all of them. But I can tell you that majority of them,
But they are licking their wounds right now. We talked about foreign aids a while
yes,
ago.
yes,
That's the implication.
it's like a carrot and stick game. Okay, if you do this one, I will give you that one. If you don't do this one, I will beat you. No. So I see the Africa is also emerging, you know, in this present dispensation. And enlightenment is coming on. We are here talking about Rwanda, talking about Estonia and
Sudan.
Sudan. So the debate will spread. It's not enough to say this will be our benefit. They have lost some measure of their independence and sovereignty because they accept to be bullied around by Trump. Trump will expire in a few years' time. And what will come of the policy? I can bet you that the policy will be terminated and it cannot be pursued beyond that one. You heard our colleague talking from the US say, human rights, they are bitter about it. Because these are people, you took them unwillingly. It's like uprooting somebody and dislocating the person completely. Not only human rights, a lot of people are complaining. And these complaints, they are going to come out to the whole world. Because the treatment they are giving to these people, they are inhuman treatment. And US is a country that acknowledges human rights, so to speak. But they are now working in violation of human rights. It doesn't matter whether these migrants are their citizens or not, but they are in their soil, and they are supposed to be protected.
Yeah, but we also need to look at that from the point of view that these migrants, they are not documented. Because whether we like it or not, we must state the obvious facts. And what is the obvious fact that Donald Trump seems to be preaching? Now, if you must stay in America, then of course you must be documented. But most of these migrants, you know, they are not documented. Their immigration status is still questionable. And that seems to be the big issue.
Yes, but they have been there for a long time. Why don't they allow them to regularize their stay instead of just bundling them out? No. But is it not the same migrant they have been using all over the place to do all their work, their dirty works and all that and all that and all that? So they have to, whether they have papers or not, United Nations, they are there. They have to make sure that they treat them rightly. Why won't you take them back to their countries of origin? That is, it's more humane than any other thing. Because when they go back, they will still meet their people one way or the other. But to just bundle them from the US and take them to no man's land, so to speak, they won't have a fair deal at all.
Okay. All right. Ahmed, we understand also, too, that as we speak now, the U.S. cities are shrinking. You know, shrinking as, a result of the migration policy that Donald Trump is giving to migrants in the U.S. Now, the question that we asked today is this, can U.S. as a nation, can they withstand the implication of all these migrants crackdown? You know, because there are adverse implications. Can U.S. withstand it? Ahmed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I admitted my point. So that's an interesting question, Evans. And we are beginning to see the result of this so-called crackdown on migrants. So if you recall from our last conversation, I had made it clear that this current administration views immigration as a crime. Immigration is not a crime. There's no way that immigration is a crime. There's illegal immigration and then there's legal immigration. When somebody comes into your territory illegally, you are bound by international norms and conventions to pass the person through the system and come out with a judgment that says they are there either to seek asylum or for whatever reason. And the judicial system would reach a final conclusion and then hand over to the executive branch and say, look, XYZ came in here illegally. and must be sent back to his country. This administration seeks to circumvent completely that process. Not only have they removed the right of immigrants to come and seek asylum, they've also removed the right of immigrants to go through a judicial inquiry and find out if their case is valid or not. Let me quickly address something that you directed at my co-discussant. Yes, Africa has a place to play. If Africa comes together through the African Union or whatever united body they have and say, look, we will not accept the worst from your countries into our country. Why they call them the worst? You see, the language the US administration uses, it says, they will say the worst, they will say criminals, they will say convicts, they will say rapists, they will say murderers. When you use that kind of language on individuals or human beings, and then you seek to deport them, what you are doing is exposing them to hate and hate crimes on the other side where they are going to. Now, how do you want the Rwandans, the ordinary Rwandans, to feel about you bringing in people that you call murderers, rapists, killers, child abusers, sex offenders, and so on and so forth? You see, the whole thing is very disturbing. The United Nations too has even come out and said, I mean, the human rights organizations have come out and said, you are putting the lives of these people at risk. You cannot just wake up and start moving people all the way across the world without any recourse to a judicial review. Now, to address your own question, how is all of this affecting the United States and the economy? There are certain categories of the United States economy that are purely driven, or mostly, let's not say purely, mostly driven by migrant labor. Agriculture is one of them. Construction is another. And these are the prime movers, the prime indices of the GDP of the United States. America is known as let's call it the food basket of the world. They produce or they make food in excess, maybe 200 times in excess of what they are able to consume locally. Most of the rest of it is exported either through aid or to other countries that need or to support farming and so on and so forth. All of this has ceased. How has this ceased? Because migrant labor is in short supply. People that usually come to do these jobs, they come across, they do the job. It's really hard labor. It's back-breaking labor. The average American is not going to go to the farm to either pluck apples or remove corn or all those kind of things. So there's a shortage that has created. And we are seeing this going around because the price of all of these things is rising in the marketplace. If you go to supermarkets now, the cost of basic items of food have all risen. Also in the housing industry, migrants are usually the ones that do the real grunt work, the laying of the concrete, the building of the pillars, the roofing, etc., etc. They are all gone because they are afraid that they will be taken and deported. Not only will they be deported, they will be dehumanized. They will not even give them the benefit or the privilege to collect whatever is owed them as an outstanding to better their lives when they go back. Now, imagine somebody is taken from a construction site in California and deported to Rwanda. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, you might even bypass his own country. He may be coming from Benin, but instead of taking him to Benin or Nigeria, you take him to Rwanda. It doesn't make any sense. So there's so much that is involved. The US is in complete chaos at this point in time, and everybody is unhappy, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So that's it. And some of the truth facts of fire that we have is that if you go to public centers in the U.S. now, it's all empty. You go to churches, it's all empty. You go to mosques, it's all empty because of the fear of the new sheriff in town. That's Donald Trump. I mean, if they come on you, whatever you're doing, you are deported, you are bundled, back home, and that's already having adverse effects, in American social life. Well, the last is not heard because we understand that these are deportees being deported to Rwanda is in stages. The first stage is that 10 of them have been taken to Rwanda about last 3 weeks. So the next set now is the number is what we don't know. But one big question that we ask is these deportees, are they being profiled? And the answer we get to that question is a ready no. So then, of course, you may want to wonder, how would you take other persons, other nationals of other countries, you take them to another place entirely without profiling them? Anyway, the last is not said, like I said a while ago. So we'll see how all this we develop. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Professor Victor Igbenedion. And also to say a very big thank you there to Ahmed Mamodu, who joined us all the way from the United States of America. All right, so until the same time next week, still on this television, independent TV, the program, The African Discourse, will return your way same time. My name is Evan Sunokugi. Good afternoon.